Alright, let's get going here. Alright guys, this is first period on Wednesday and trying to continue our pattern of doing a live video every Wednesday and Thursday. Next quarter, we'll do more. I want to do 2 a week, but this time it's just 1. And I just posted a big thing, which is our final assignment, our final assessment for the quarter. So I called it the CQA, even though it's not a test. That's just what we call it for the last big thing. And if you look on here, here's some detail. And I mentioned this last time. The project, it's supposed to be like sort of a way to use all the stuff we've talked about through the quarter and put it all together in a new way with a new angle on it. So we've seen some stories that have been adapted from one medium to another. We read a short story called They're Made Out of Meat, and then we saw a short film that was made based on that. And it's different, you know. I told you to read it first and then watch the short film later, because I think if you do it the other way, then it would kind of limit your imagination. When you're reading that text, it has no description. It's just dialogue, so you can imagine the speakers, the aliens, as weird plasma beings who exist in other dimensions and don't have bodies like ours. But then in the movie, it's just human actors. And I understand why, of course, because that's what we have to work with, and they don't have $1 zillion to make fancy effects. But also, when you have a human actor, you get the benefits of seeing their expression and hearing their voice change and getting different camera angles to show different emotions. And you can change the lighting, and if somebody has a shadow over their face, it feels different. So all of that has benefits, but it has drawbacks too. And in the movie, they could also do things like music and edits to cut from one guy to another in a key moment and give you a different feel of their conversation. Even though the conversation was exactly the same, they cut a few lines, but they pretty much had the script straight out of the page. Another example we didn't read, but I'm sure you've seen the movie, The Wizard of Oz, was based on a book. And in the book, the magical item that Dorothy had were the silver shoes. Silver shoes. It sounds nice. It's got that alliteration, which is something you can do in a text form. But for the movie, they decided, hey, we're going to use this color theme. It's going to be all about color, how Dorothy's home was black and white with the sepia tones, and it feels very old-fashioned and very limited. And then when she walks into Oz, it's bright blues and yellows, and everything is just, it really pops. And so if they had silver shoes, it wouldn't look very special. It would look almost like black and white again. So they said, we got to make it something bright and eye-catching and different. So they changed it to the ruby slippers, and that's become a famous thing from the movie, the ruby slippers. They're changing to fit what they had to work with and what their benefits are. Okay, so this is a big issue that people argue about. If you are a fan of a book and then somebody turns it into a movie, people always say, oh, I don't like the way they changed that, I don't like the way they cut this. And I don't want that to be the focus of this. It's not meant to just be complaining, but you can if you want. If you want to say that, one version is better, then you can. You just have to give a little bit of analysis and thought. So if you're a fan of Harry Potter and you don't like something about the movie version, or if you're a fan of Game of Thrones and you don't like something about the movie version, or the TV show version. That's fine. Just you might say, oh, I know why they did it. I understand what's going on, but I still like the other version, etc. So anyway, like I said, I want this to be kind of a callback to some of the stuff we did earlier. So I want you to kind of do this in the same way we did our early project, where you made a couple slides and then made a voiceover narration of it as your presentation. This will be the same thing. So I've got 5 things. That doesn't mean you have to have 5 slides. Some of them could be split up into a couple. So you might end up with like 8 or 9 slides, or even more. Totally fine. Use images. You know, since we're talking about fitting things to their medium, if it's a slideshow, you don't just want a big block of text. You want to have a screenshot, clip, even something like that. If you want to talk about how adding music made a big change, well, then you can show us the music or something. So anyway, the key things that you need: 1, give a summary and just tell us what you're talking about, because your audience might know. If you're talking about Star Wars or Harry Potter, they probably will, but give a little summary anyway. And that can be quick. It doesn't have to tell the whole story in all detail. Then talk about the original. What did they do to fit with their medium? Okay. And then the adaptation. What did they do to fit with their version? You might have 2 of these. You might do a thing that's original and then it was adapted multiple times. For example, I heard some people a couple days ago, they were talking about The Witcher. The Witcher was a book series, and then it was made into a video game, and then it was made into a TV show. So you have 3 versions, and you can look at the, you know, all 3 compared to each other. Now, again, this is not really about judging whether it's good or bad. It's about saying, what did they have to work with, and what did they do to fit with their situation? Okay, so obviously, one thing to go with that example from The Witcher, one thing that's different in a game is that you have multiple paths. There might be a time when you can choose to go one way or choose to go another way, or you can save a character or you can fail to save a character. And so they have to make multiple branching paths, where if it's a TV show, they probably don't, unless it's one of those sort of time travel-y things where you get to see multiple versions. Again, a million possibilities, things to observe. I haven't actually played The Witcher, so I don't know the details, but I'm sure you would find things. If that was something you cared about, you would find things to focus on. And then finally, the reasons. Why do you think they did this? And what effect did it have? Okay. Often you can have a different feel even when the same stuff happens. So if you turn something into a movie and it's really fast with a lot of cuts and it's got really heavy music, then it feels very, action-y, even if it's the same stuff that happened in the book that didn't feel that way. So it could be about the specific events, and you might say, oh, they changed the ending. But it could be about the same stuff with the same ending that just has a different presentation. And that can make a difference too. So anyway, I would recommend to do this the same way as last time, to make a slideshow with the Loom extension to make a video. It doesn't have to be that. If you have another way, if you have another app you want to use or something like that, as long as you're getting the general result. Okay, I'm gonna, in this video now, I'm looking at the chat. I always try to look at the chat to see if there are questions, because we did have a couple viewers. But if you view this later or you have a question, let me know. I'm going to grade the previous stuff, over the last couple days, we had those quizzes on different parts of the documentary video, and I think I graded 1 or 1.5 of those. So I'm going to go back. If you didn't do those, you still can. If you got a low grade and you want to redo one, you still can. Just put a little comment on Google Classroom and say, hey, I did this, can you check it? And then I'll see it. I don't get a notification if somebody just does the form, but I do get a notification if somebody makes a comment, so that'll work. And if you have any other stuff, just let me know. We've got over a week before the end of the quarter, so we want to make sure all the grades and everything are nice. Again, the assessments right now, that first project with the video is big because it counts for that assessment category. But once we have the quizzes and once we have the CQA, the assessment points will be spread out, and it won't be that one thing is the whole section. So if you're missing one, that's bad, but if you get a slightly low grade in one, it shouldn't be a huge deal. Anyway, I'll end the video now, and we'll have time to catch up. Thanks.